It's 8 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday, June 24th, 2023. I gave them 2 sections, so this is the 3rd and 4th cells. 2 cells. I gave them 2 cells. This is the 3rd and 4th cells of this last section. This is where the line was. To the left was where they were. To the right is where they're going. So right now the temperature is about 78 or 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Still quite humid. There's a gentle breeze blowing from the east, which is quite nice. Right now my rotational grazing goals is just to keep the cows moving so they don't eat too much of the grass. It's a 21-day rotation. After this section, the end of this rotation, which will happen on June 23rd, I believe, June 22nd, 23rd or 24th, something like that. Basically Friday morning. I'm going to move them to the neighbor's back 20, leave them there for a week or so. Give this ground a little bit more of a chance to recover. Hopefully the summer grass can get a kickstart and catch up. Right now it's, although some strands are like up past my boots, a lot of it's just about half a foot or 6 inches tall. I'd like it to be quite a bit taller. The only way I know to do that is to let it grow. You know, that's the only tool I really have, is taking the cows off the land. The neighbor's back 20. Last time I looked at it, which wasn't too long ago, the spring grass had fallen over. Summer grass is coming up, so it's had, let's see, probably the summer grass started growing in the middle of May, so it's had a good month and a half to grow. So get the cows back there, eat what they can of the leftover spring grass and trample the rest in the ground, and then eat what they can of the new grass, and then get them out of there before they start nibbling it too far. I'm not gonna rotate them through the back 20. The reason why it's too hard to set up the fence. The sheep, I need to get the sheep. I don't think the sheep should be back there. The dogs won't stay with the cows, and the fence in the neighbor's back 20 is cattle fence. It's not a sheep fence or goat fence or anything like that. So I should get the sheep pinned up, not let them back there. Otherwise I might never see them again. Either they're gonna run away or something will get them. So hopefully the ram is doing his job and my sheep are bred again. So I should be getting a lamb crop in another 6 months or so. December, hopefully January, or November actually, not December. Anyway, yep, that's what I'm looking forward to. Ooh, the neighbor's cattle are in the back there, on the other side of that fence. As well, the bulls had, what, 2 21-day chances. So they've had 2 cycles, estrus cycles, to impregnate the cows. And so it's probably time to pull the bulls off. So maybe I put the bulls and the sheep together in a pen. And then I got to figure out a way to keep the bulls off the cows. And electric wiring isn't going to be enough. So, I don't know. Got to get the bulls off the cows. I think this is 21. Are you 21? Let's see. Yeah, that's 21. She has big bones. I worry that there's just not enough summer grass right now, that I'm grazing it too early, not giving enough chance for it to grow. That said, my lawn is taking off like mad. It's growing a jungle. I haven't fertilized that ever since I came here 2.5 years ago. So the summer grass just took over the lawn. It's thick, it's dense, it's tall. Maybe I just need to give this grass a chance to grow. Maybe that's all it needs. Oh, look at that. The sheep are taking on that thorn bush. Let's go take a look at that. This is one of the reasons why you want multiple species on your land. You just don't want one kind of animal. The animals will target different plants. Like the cows wouldn't touch this thorn bush. But the sheep are munching on it. Yes, the sheep and the cows do compete. They eat the same grass. But the sheep also eat other things. You know. That sheep's going after that flower. Just bit the flower head right off. You know. Yeah. And so, hopefully, between the two of them, there's not a lot that'll survive. The weeds, they grow quick, but they're not as resilient as grass to being grazed. And so by putting grazing pressure on your pastures, it's supposed to reduce the weeds. If I just let this field grow on its own with nothing on it, the weeds would do a lot better. But because the cows are grazing it, the cows and the sheep, they're putting pressure on the weeds that wouldn't otherwise be there. Now the grass needs that pressure to grow well. If you let grass do its thing with no pressure whatsoever, it will grow into clumps. Oh, was that a snake skin? No, it's just a branch. Some sort of branch. The grasshoppers are everywhere, by the way. But the grass needs to be cut. It needs to be eaten. If you leave it alone, the grass will grow into clumps, and in between the clumps there'll be nothing, because the grass will shade it out, suck up all the nutrients. But if you mow the grass and keep cutting it and keep taking the tips off, the grass responds by building a strong root layer and by growing quickly. Is that a caterpillar? Oh my goodness. I don't know what kind of caterpillar that is. Let's see if I can get it to focus. Zoom out a little bit. There you go. So this is how you grow grass. You got to put cows on it. Cows are the optimum animal for the grass. The way that they eat is different than sheep and horses. The cows like to take the tips and move on, which is what the grass needs. For those of you who are concerned that maybe the cows are destroying the planet, I just need to remind you of a couple facts. Number one, before the European settlers came here, aka the Americans, this area was populated by huge numbers of buffalo or bison, whatever you want to call them. And the estimates of how many bison there were is roughly comparable to the number of cattle that we're growing in the United States now. And so we have not increased the number of ruminants on the land. There's a good reason for that. Ruminants only make sense economically if you're grazing. It doesn't make sense to raise cows on feed. It just doesn't make money. And there's only so much ground and there's only so much grass, so much sunlight and so much rain. Now, if we were to optimize our grazing operations, maybe I can double the number of cows. So I suspect that this land can handle pretty easily 30 cows, which is what I got right about now. But I could double the number of cows, maybe even triple the number of cows. And if everybody in the United States were doing that, then maybe the population of buffalo or ruminants would be exceeded by a factor of 2 or 3. In the grand scheme of things, that is marginal. It doesn't really compare to other industries and what they're doing to the environment. So if anything, the way that we grow more cows is by strengthening the biological processes, by being more efficient in how we convert sunlight and rainwater into meat. The end product is hamburgers, of course. And so we will be using the same resources that we've always been using. Nobody running a cattle farm is going to irrigate. Nobody running a cattle farm is going to divert a river. We're not going to go out there and take prime cropland that's used for corn and strawberries or watermelon. We don't want that land. If we are allowed to graze that land, it's only because the crop has already been taken and we're increasing the fertility of the land by grazing it. But we're not going to convert farmland into pasture land unless that farmland is no longer used. So maybe 100 years ago somebody grew cotton here and decided that cotton wasn't worth it for whatever reason, and now it's pasture land, right? That's what I'm saying is nobody's going to take your precious farmland and convert it to pasture land to make cows. We're taking the land that nobody wants for anything else, that's not useful for farmland, that's not useful even for timberland, right? You can look at these trees compared to the Pacific Northwest. These are not these are not very good trees. You know, this area just doesn't grow trees like it does in the Pacific Northwest. We're not taking any land except what people don't want. And then we're taking the rainwater that falls from the sky that nobody wants. And we're taking the sunlight that's landing on the earth that, you know, people are building solar farms, but it's turning out that's not as efficient an operation because of the minerals and the chemicals used to develop the solar panels and their lifespan. So we're building systems that take all the natural resources and repurposing it to grow more natural resources. Things like grass, things like animals and meat that's super nutritious and healthy for you, that humans almost can't survive without, you know. And so we're making it possible using the same resources to feed more people if we were to be efficient that way. So that's number one. Nobody's stealing your farmland and turning it to pasture land, right? And the second point is you have to keep in mind that these people that are preaching the gospel of global warming are idiots. They're nincompoops. They're ignoramuses. They are retarded. They're literally wrong in the head. Why do I say that? Well, just listen to them. Listen to them talk about any subject. Go ahead and listen to a supposed expert in climate science talk about anything else. Once they open their mouth, you'll realize how stupid they are and how uneducated they are. I was reading a paper. It's called The Falsification of Carbon Dioxide as a Greenhouse Gas. It's written by a guy named Gerlich from Germany. And he works from first principles in physics. What that means is the things that we know to be true, like thermodynamics, you know, heat, conservation of energy, entropy, things like that. So he works from first principles, and he shows how there is no such thing as a greenhouse effect involving carbon dioxide. The greenhouses do not work that way. There was an experiment by a guy named Wood back in the early 1900s where he took a pane of salt, right? The reason why he used salt was because he wanted something that was transparent in the visible spectrum and also transparent in the infrared spectrum. And so his experiment was he took a box, he stuffed it with cotton, he put on top of one a pane of glass and another a pane of salt, and then he measured the temperature. and both were clear, right? And he found that the temperature between the two boxes was the same, that there was no difference, right? And so this idea that somehow, you know, a greenhouse operates because of radiation is just wrong, you know. If there is any difference between the two, it has nothing to do with radiation. And anybody that studied thermodynamics would understand why that is, because in thermodynamics, it is not the method of heat exchange that matters. No. It is the fact that it happens at all, right? And so when you have the sun in thermal contact with the earth or anything else, there is a certain amount of warming that's going to happen one way or the other. Obviously, you can try to block that thermal contact one way or the other, right? You can try to insulate, you know, put something in shade so the sun doesn't directly irradiate it, right? But there will be other methods of heat exchange that will be involved. And in the case of a greenhouse gas, the reason why greenhouses work is because they are a sealed box where convection is not allowed to occur between the inside and the outside. And if you're ever inside of a greenhouse and you feel like it's getting too warm, the solution is to replace your glass panes with salt panes, which are transparent to infrared light. No, that's retarded. The solution is to open a window and cycle the air, allow the air to exchange heat with the outside. That's it, you know. So it doesn't matter how the heat is exchanged, just that it is. And if you want to slow down a thermal process, you have to slow down that thermal exchange by limiting how it's able to interact. And radiation plays very little role in how heat is exchanged. On the Earth's surface, the number one driver of heat exchange is something called convection. That is, volumes of air that move from one place to another. Something you might know as the wind. And that's why when you're hot, you open a window to allow the heat to exchange with the outside, assuming of course the outside is cooler than the inside. And that's the way it is, you know. We don't open the blinds. The incoming solar radiation may drive a little bit of warming on the inside, but it's not like the windows work just one direction. So if you want to seriously exchange heat such that it makes a difference, you got to allow, oh my goodness. Did you guys see that? You got to allow the heat to exchange via convection. Even, what is that? Conduction. So that's basically heat exchanged by direct contact. Is not as efficient as convection. If I had a volume of air that wasn't allowed to be replaced versus one that was, you would see the heat exchange would be a lot faster if I allow the air to move. That's why when your computer's hot, you put a fan in. You want to move the air, you know. And inside the little CPU, you want to connect it up with the fins or whatever, the cooling system. You might use some kind of thermal compound that increases the rate of heat exchange via conduction. But really, if you want to cool that thing down, you have to exchange the air. What? This dog is like sitting on the other dog. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. Have fun, take care, and bye-bye.